What's going on, everybody?
What's going on? It makes me think of that song. What's up, everybody?
What's the haps?
What's happening?
What's happening?
What's up?
Hey.
What's up?
Hey, everyone. It's
Oh,
Meryl.
I thought you were saying hey to me.
Nope.
I was like, what's up?
I'm just doing the intro. That's all. It's Meryl.
Hey, Maria. Hi, guys.
Welcome to another episode of the Bold Women Podcast, where we are just going to be talking about all sorts of things.
All sorts of things. Drum roll, please, for today's topic.
Today, what we've got on deck is rest.
Rest.
We are talking about rest, my friends. So
Yeah.
let's get to it.
Let's get to it. This was something when I was looking at the topic today, I was telling Meryl, I was just like, man, this is something I'm probably going to leave this recording feeling super convicted because it's something that I know I need to do better at. In just this past, I feel like, not to say like quote unquote season of life, but this past season of life has been incredibly unrestful, just in busyness, which I know everybody can relate to being busy, but to that spot of where I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I need to be better about rest. So definitely gonna focus on that in my next season.
That's good. Let's hope.
What's the smirk for? Guys, I
wish you the best.
Thank you. I would also like to, I know you cannot see, but I would just like to shout out Meryl Wilson right now for actually being tan. This is, I know this is a little off topic, but this is a big day for her. And
Listen.
this is a big day.
Friends.
And I just wanted to celebrate it with her.
If you haven't seen our socials, you notice I'm quite fair. And I decided to roll with some sunless tanner that I've been building on for a wedding in which we are, I believe it's implied that we are going to be wearing spring colors, which I had to go out and buy a dress because all I have is black. So
she wanted to be tan, and she's the most tan that I think I've ever seen her. And it's throwing me for a loop. So I just wanted to shout her out. So if you guys could just shout her out in comments and say how proud of her you are.
I'd rather you not, because by the time this drops, I probably won't be.
The tan will wear off.
It'll probably not be there. It'll cease to exist.
We could take a picture at the wedding because I'll be tan for it too, and then we can.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wedding. I'm gonna be in a cute dress, and I will not have a +1. This will be like the first wedding since like before high school that I haven't had like a +1.
Really?
To a wedding. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a +1 to a wedding.
You had a husband.
Well, yeah, outside of that.
Well,
you know what I mean. Okay. You did too. Well, you see what I'm saying though? Like,
well, I mean,
I'm
I've
just
had
saying
dates to weddings. Anyways, we need to just talk about the topic.
Let's talk about rest.
we could just go off on a complete tangent, but
we could debate that for a minute.
Let's not say we did. All right. Rest. Today we're talking about rest. Your girl looked up the definition in the Oxford Dictionary, of course, and it means to cease work or movement in order to relax, refresh oneself, or recover strength.
Sheesh.
Now,
yeah,
so I did a little bit of researching on rest, and for whatever reason, I felt compelled to just Google like types of rest, and it turns out there's 7. I will briefly run through them quickly, just according to Psychology Today and a bunch of other articles that I saw.
Interesting. There's 7. This is just, I know we are a podcast based off of.
We're going to turn it biblical. I know you're going to do it, so let's do it.
Yeah.
Go.
I'm going to turn it biblical.
7.
7 is like throughout scripture, numbers have meaning, and 7 is quote like a holy number. Basically meaning like the number of completion. That's why there's 7 days. And so when you said there's 7 types of rest and God rested on the 7th day.
That's good.
It's kind of cool.
All right. So first things first, there's physical rest, which pretty self-explanatory. Sleep, relaxation, napping fall under that category. It's a rest from physical activity that makes us tired. And then there's mental rest. Let's see, that is basically, I'm just skimming through an article here. Sorry, this is not great of me to be doing.
Well, I think this is interesting where it talks about this mental rest, where it says how can you tell if you're struggling with a mental rest deficit, where it says like sleep should be helpful, but when you lay down, your mind turns on. So that's actually saying like, hey, I'm past my mental capacity if it's like my brain's turning on.
Yeah. And then we've got sensory rest, which is, of course, super important, especially today, given just how everyone is pretty much like, I mean, babies are born out of the womb with a phone in their hands.
Holding a screen.
Yeah. So that's just giving yourself a break from stimulation. So screens, conversations, light, music, pets, children, etc. There's emotional rest. So it's allowing yourself to be your authentic self. And it gives the example of like if someone asks you how you're doing after recognizing you're visibly upset and you respond with fine, that suppression of emotions like places added internal pressure on you, which I found to be interesting because I do that all the time. That's the old Midwestern, like, it's all right. I'm okay. Everything's fine.
No worries. And you're like, actually, I have 20.
Worries.
There's 20 worries tied to that. No worries. It's fine.
Yeah. Then there's social rest, which this one has climbed up my list of priorities quite a bit. So it's just about understanding the limits of your social battery and realizing, when you need to pull away from a social activity or social activities and recharge. Then we've got creative rest, which I thought was interesting. And it just talks about people who work in creative fields. And one way to achieve that, they say, is to surround yourself with inspiration while simultaneously taking pressure off having to do something with that inspiration.
Like you have to create something from it. Like I have
so
to
just
have something.
So not acting on it, just being around an inspiring atmosphere. Or and then there's, of course, I would say the most important one, which would be your spiritual rest.
Woo.
This article suggests adding prayer, meditation, or purpose to our lives, which basically I will just say it's just you need Jesus in your life.
You need Jesus.
Yeah.
100%.
So those are different types of rest, but I would like to ask you, Maria,
brace for it.
Whilst growing up, how have you grown to understand what rest is?
Growing up, and I think that there's a really good side to this thought, but like I just know like rest was for like when you were done. So like you could rest when everything was done. So if there is work to do, you don't rest yet. So it's just kind of one of those. And my father is one of the most hardworking men.
He's Iowan.
He's Iowan. I mean, like Iowan farm, like raised on a farm, like he can work. And I don't know. I greatly appreciate that because I have seen the polar opposite side too. And if I had to, quote unquote, pick between the two, I would almost prefer like that hardworking side. But I think there's this piece where it can get so that's okay. Let me backpedal, adjust it a smidge because I was starting to go down a different tangent. But
let's
just
stay on track here.
So I'm trying. But I think, growing up, it was very much like you get all your work, like you get whatever work done you need to do. And then you rest. Rest is so good and you need it, but other things are priority over it. So I would say that's kind of one way growing up with it. And I still very much have that mindset. I feel like I'm able to balance it a little bit better now. And, but it's definitely one of those, until the work's done. Once the work's done, sure, go ahead. But until it's done, like we need to make sure we get everything done.
Okay. So that sounds like there was an emphasis on like physical rest.
Yeah. So that's what I guess what I'm kind of thinking of, like, is more the physical side of things,
like where you're allowing yourself to like relax, so you can relax once everything's done.
Yeah.
Physically.
I feel like my family was very good about like spiritual rest though. Like that was practiced throughout. I remember seeing like my dad have Jesus time, my mom have Jesus time. I mean, like that was kind of exemplified for me. if that's the right word. So from that aspect, that's always been something that's been shown to me as this is important. And this is a value that you need to have in your life.
It was demonstrated.
Yeah.
Took me a second. I was like, having a glitch.
Great word. But I think what's also interesting too is where we're talking about like the social aspect, like the introvert versus extrovert. I feel like that's something that wasn't really even around when we were kids, like to understand the two differences. Like, I don't think I ever heard of that until like I was in college or out of college, where I was like, oh, like it wasn't something that I was really super aware of myself that way. Cause I think like me personally, from looking at that type of rest growing up, I think I would always label myself an extrovert, but I honestly feel like I'm kind of one of those, what they call them, ambiverts. Ambivert, where it's like, it's both. So I can get energy from being around people, but there are times where I'm like, I just want to be by myself, like, and feeling completely fine.
Well, somebody who's introverted does not get energy from being around people.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying like I could be by myself and get energy and feel refreshed too.
I know, but I'm saying when an introvert is around people in a social setting, their energy is depleted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that can happen to me too.
Okay. I think.
Yeah. Tell me about you. What was yours?
Well, I think I had a similar like kind of upbringing. It's funny because to this day, it's like I'll be cooking dinner, but I'll be cleaning dishes while I'm trying to cook dinner.
Yeah, because then when it's done,
my food will get cold for the sake of having all of the dishes cleaned, put away,
100%,
so that all of that is done, so that there's nothing left for me to like be cleaning after I eat, because I cannot enjoy my meal until that stuff is wrapped up.
100%. I understand that on a whole level.
It's okay. So this is one of the funny things about growing up in my family. And to this day, sorry, Mom, I'm about to shout you out on this. So if you're listening, this is just funny. Anyway, she like, we'll have dinner or something at their house, you know, for a family thing or whatever. And whether like I'll do dishes, like I'm somebody who will like help out with dishes. Like I immediately do that as soon as I finish with my plate. Like I'm always like going straight to the sink and I start cleaning stuff. And then somehow, even after I manage to do all of that stuff, like we're like, okay, let's sit down, let's like watch a show or, you know, grab a beer, hang out, talk. We'll watch some YouTube videos or something like that, and we'll just talk or whatever. And if it's a movie, like my mom will somehow find something else to start cleaning.
Like,
and then
no,
she's like,
go ahead, we're done.
Go ahead, get started on that. Go ahead and get started on that. And then it's like she's clanging around doing whatever. I'm like, what are you even doing? I thought we put everything away. But then she comes.
No, I love my mom too, but she does the same thing.
We're 20 minutes into a movie and she sits down and she's like, okay, so what's happening? You know, catch me up. And we're like, it's funny because
that's so funny.
How we still haven't learned to just like wait until she's ready.
Like, are you done?
Yeah, we don't do that.
Are you done?
So anyway, that's just a funny thing from growing up. But
I am curious. Okay, did your parents grow up did either one of your parents grow up on a farm?
My dad kind of did.
Okay.
He had family that was like out in like rural Iowa, like Sheraton, Iowa, like southern Iowa.
Okay.
My mom, no.
Because I'm thinking,
I mean, my mom worked out at like a horse barn and stuff like that. They both have like experience with rural.
Because I'm super curious too. Because that was, I know just from stories of my dad growing up as well. My mom didn't grow up on my farm, but my dad did. And he was a dairy farm. But that would be before school. They would be up doing chores, then school, then practice, then home, doing chores, then home. I mean, like it was you just worked. And I think that was so much of, and I'd say like our parents' generation, especially in the Midwest, but so much of our parents' generation in the Midwest was that.
Something that was interesting is I'm not recalling like seeing my parents take time for like spiritual rest or like having Jesus time, but I think it's likely because they probably made me go to bed and then that's when they would
do it.
Their Bible time and stuff. Because I've seen my parents like with their Bibles and doing stuff like that, whatever,
Yeah.
going to small groups and being active in church. But yeah, I was just never. I was probably asleep usually when they were
passed out.
doing that. I mean, there was 6 of us, so
Yeah, they're probably like,
I was just like, everybody's go to bed. We need peace and
go to
quiet
bed
so we
now.
can deal with this. So we can do
Sheesh.
what we need to do.
yes.
So that's interesting. Yeah, I think that the social rest aspect was interesting to me because as a recovering people pleaser type of person,
Yeah.
I involved myself in so many activities, and I don't think it was until I started drawing certain boundaries in my life with like friends, family, things like that, that I started to realize like how important it was for me to take time away.
Because you were more introverted.
Yeah, but I would just force myself into all of these like social settings and, you know, working all the time and, you know, drinking, partying, whatever. And then, yeah, it was like I was nonstop all the time. And then I really don't know how I'm sitting here today, but
The grace of God.
but God.
But God. Okay, this makes me think of, just for an example, this past weekend, I was talking about like recovering people pleaser and just like how just areas of Meryl knows where I'm going with this, areas of like starting to learn growth of like that social rest aspect. I no joke, guys. Meryl had family in town and we were going to go meet up and go listen to jazz music. We love live jazz music. I love live jazz music. Meryl loves live jazz music.
I'm a big fan.
Huge fan. I could listen to live jazz music all day long.
I will not seek it out on Spotify. That's not something I listen to, but
I want to be in person.
I will go
sitting and listening to it. So I was like, heck yeah, I would love to go. And then I got ready, like I was dressed, I had makeup on, my hair was done, and I sat in my car and I was like, I'm tired. And I texted Meryl and she was like, yeah, no problem, dude. And then I was like, I still felt bad. And then I called her and she was like, why are you calling me?
I legit was sitting there looking at my phone and I'm like talking to my sister and I was like, she's probably not going to come, which I don't think she should because she's been like really busy or whatever. And then the text came that you weren't coming. And then you're like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, dude, it's fine. Like, I don't care. Like I am the person
But
that's
still.
like, if you cancel plans on me, I'm
You're celebrating.
legit fine.
Like, that's okay.
Cool. I will either go do that anyway. I will go and do the activity that I wanted to do, or
Yeah.
I will sit at home and be completely content
And I quote
not doing something.
Meryl in this, in Maria, I can function in society without you. End quote.
Yeah, I think I
No,
did say
but it was
something
so-
along those lines.
No, it was great, but it was good. Like just in that, like, I don't know. I know it seems, even though I called and apologized, it was one of those of like, I was really proud of myself. Cause I was like, even though I was in my car ready and I had gotten ready, I was like, no, I'm actually really, really tired. And
Yeah,
I don't know. That was just,
Okay.
that was kind of a big moment for me.
good. I'm glad you did it. So
So that was just last week, guys. Look at us just improving.
yes.
Uh,
So I guess with that being said, especially being a recovering people
Yeah.
pleaser, how have you tried to find rest in your life? And like, how's it important to you? How have you started to prioritize that? Like, what does that look like for you?
oh gosh. I feel like I'm a very scheduled person. Like, I like throwing things up on me like last minute or like spur of the moment things, I can tend to not be great with as far as like, no, that wasn't really planned. I need to get better about because I think that can go in one opposite ditch too of where it's like, sorry, didn't schedule that. I'm not going to do it. I think we can so go in that way. But I think I'm tending to be more like of a scheduled person or like plan out. Like if somebody wants to do something or whatnot, like, okay, let's put a date on the calendar so I can block around it and I can know what's going on that week. So I think I tend to do that a little bit more. And then in the mornings, I try to keep a pretty steady morning routine that allows for some of that spiritual rest. So, yeah, I would say my mornings typically look identical. And
same.
I love a good early bedtime. And it makes me sound like I'm old and crotchety, but
We already had the discussion about your preferences with candy. So,
but I swear I'm fun. What is that laugh for, jerk? But
okay, she's one of my best friends, and I can make those jokes.
But but yeah, I think I try to.
You are fun.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I try to work rest into my mornings because I know like that's where it's like my mind is at peace because of my job. My job right now is very, very busy, and I don't really have time for my mind to like rest at my job, like in my quote unquote 9 to 5 job. My mind is very busy all the time. So just getting the allotment for that in the morning before the day starts is huge for me. How do you find rest?
I think a lot of prioritizing physical and spiritual rest. I think once I started doing that was like a huge game changer for me. Once I started prioritizing, like sticking to a schedule of going to bed at around the same time every night and making sure that I do my best to get at least 8 hours of sleep. And to all of those of you who are parents and have children
Props
or babies, so sorry, but this is just where my life is at right now. And I'm really excited that I can get like 8 or 9 hours of sleep.
It's so nice.
Sorry for your plights. But anyway, I know that that'll change. And that's also something too that I have come to realize. You and I had this conversation like earlier, or actually back in like 2022. I had like one of those random like thoughts that just came to my head that like the way that I'm doing things right now is like not going to be this way forever. And so also keeping that in mind, like seasons change, things change, priorities change, you know, eventually a man's going to find his way into my life, and that's going to change how I move my schedule around probably. And, you know, when I get married and have children, if I have children, you know, that's all going to change everything. So
100%.
I'm just speaking from a space of like, this is where I'm at right now. And like, I have the time. I'm in this wilderness season where I am to be prioritizing those things. And I feel like things go so much better for me if I have had a good night's sleep and I spend time in the Word in the morning and before I go to bed.
100%.
I make sure that I do that every day. And I find that I can prioritize I
find that your day goes smoother?
My day goes smoother. I can function better in terms of setting boundaries where it's like I can say no to social things. I don't feel pressure to say no to stuff. Things are just way more in alignment when I do those two simple things, making sure I'm getting enough rest. Of course, I think working out is also important in there, but I think resting your body from that is more important than.
Yeah. Well, I think what's really interesting, and we kind of have it tied in here, but I was having a conversation with someone at the gym and just even talking about how like we have this kind of mention of like this idea of hustle culture and this idea, and how even within that, it can kind of go into our physical where we feel like, okay, gym talk, like I won't make gains if I don't rest, and how actually like you tend to make more gains when you do rest. So so sometimes I think, which is still, that's something even too, I have to try to take in consideration for myself, because I can hop on that train because I enjoy it. Like I enjoy a good workout. I enjoy like being like soaked in sweat. I just push my body to the limits. I enjoy that feeling. So like learning to rest. But I think what's really interesting, if it's that way so much for our physical bodies, how much more is it for our spiritual bodies? If we go, and then we are depleted, like it's going to do the exact same thing versus like if we actually take time to fill up what's on the inside and then we expect the rest to grow from the outside. I'm such a firm believer, and that like who we are in and of ourselves, like Meryl Wilson and Maria Weiler, like it's not just like the physical being you see. It is like that we are that, or you'll hear it said in like Christian circles, but like you are a spirit, you have a soul, and you live in a body. And so I think like just realizing that like who I am is more than just the physical aspect of me, that I have to take care of the inside of me, especially spiritually, for that to overflow into the outside. And it kind of stems from the inside out.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I think is interesting too is, okay, so you'll, especially if you're like a new believer, you'll see, resting in God. You see that thrown around a ton. And sometimes I don't think we do a good job as Christians, as like more mature Christians, in explaining to people what we mean by that. Yeah. So like, because saying just like, I'm resting in God. Well, there's a couple of different things. It's biblical to, if you are praying on something, if you are, going through a season of hardship or whatever, or you're trying to make a decision, that's, you got to give things up to God and then sleep on it, and then physically rest yourself, because that's in the Bible. It tells you to do that. With prayer and thanksgiving, make your
request known unto God.
Make him
for
known.
He cares for you.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you where that's at in the Bible. I should probably know that by now, but there's that. But then there's like resting in God, and then thinking of rest as assuredness or confidence, and that's what I think, because that's where I think people might be getting confused, or if they don't know about it, or if it's just kind of like this ambiguous thing they see, like on social media, on a cute meme. It looks cute to say, rest in God.
Yeah.
Rest in God because he's got this or whatever. And what that really means is like having confidence that your prayers are going to be answered, that his promises, he will come through on them for you. And I think that what that looks like for like the rest of the world, because the rest of the world, I think, has done an interesting thing today. So hear me out on this.
Hearing.
The United States is known for hustle culture. We're known to like work to the bone, work. That is the capital. That's the capitalist grind.
Right.
That is how our economy is run, and that's how people are supposed to be like working or whatever. But you've seen lately that there's like this work-life balance. And on the outset,
that's a huge, I feel like that
having
is a hot topic word.
Yeah, like having a healthy work-life balance is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I think there's something underlying in that's saying, or that there's encouraging of people resting with assuredness and confidence in themselves, in their own power, in their own capabilities, in their own strengths.
I'm going to make this happen. I can do this.
Yes.
It's on me to get XYZ done.
Yeah.
Which it might be, but.
Which I'll tell you right now, that makes things a lot harder, because I used to live my life that way.
Yeah.
I used to live my life thinking like, don't worry, God, I've got this. Like, I'll take care of it. I'll figure it out. And I've been carrying things for a long time that I was never supposed to.
I really, really enjoy the Pastor Robert Morris, and I think he's just an incredible teacher. And I remember he did a series on prayer, and I just thought this was so good. And he talked about what you just said, made me think of it. And I hope I'm getting this quote right. And he talked about how like when we go to prayer, the idea of prayer is to take what's burdening us, take what we're carrying, and actually give it to God. And if we don't leave it with him and we pick it back up, we're not praying. We're actually just complaining. And I just thought that was really, really good.
Oh, you shared that with me.
I think
you did.
Did.
That was one that made me cry, that video.
No, sorry.
She sends me a lot of things that make me cry.
But I just love that picture of like, okay, God, I'm going to go take it to you. I know I'm supposed to give this to you. I know you're supposed to help me with it. You literally tell me, cast my cares on you because you care for me and you're going to work things out. But like if I go and I take it and then I keep worrying about it, or I keep ruminating on it, and I care, and like I have that's not showing that I have assuredness in his character and
Right.
that he's good and that he is going to work things out for me, or that he cares. And B, it's also that flip side of me thinking that for some reason I have control, and I don't. I can only control myself and what I think about and my emotions. And so this idea of like, I'm going to go to God and give it to him in prayer. But if I pick that back up and I keep worrying about it and I keep stressing and fretting and I keep bringing it up and I would keep trying to hash out every scenario, like I literally did not pray about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally just complained to God about it and I kept it for myself.
Yeah. That's really good. I had something I was going to say, but I forgot about it.
Oh, sorry.
Forgot. No, it's okay. It was something along the lines of rest being referenced in the Bible. But I mean, I've been reading about Elijah a lot lately. I probably did like 3 or 4 devotionals, and they all had something to do with
him.
With him. I'm almost finished with one that's specifically on his story, but then there was another one about like dating, which was comparable to stuff going on with Elijah's story. And then just in like my daily like Bible in a year devotional, there's been stuff about Elijah lately. So it's funny that that's just been there. But like, so the story of Elijah it's a really cool one. I would encourage you to go look it up. It's in Kings, but
okay, with that, well, no, I have this part in where it is in 1 Kings 19 that I just think is, when talking about rest with Elijah, that I think is really cool.
Are you reading 4 through 8?
No, yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you were going to read?
Well, Well, go ahead. You can read it. You can read it because I'll just make my comments after you say that.
Well, make your comments and then we can read it.
No, go ahead and read it actually, because my comments have to do with that scripture. So go
Perfect.
ahead.
Okay. So this is 1 Kings 19 and it's 4 through 8. And a little history on the story here. Elijah just had an interaction with this lady named Jezebel. So I'm sure, especially for those in the Christian circles, you've heard of the word Jezebel. She was evil. She just was not a good person at all.
She was King Ahab, his wife.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was both of them really.
It was both of them really. But she was just,
terrible.
when you want to talk about an absolutely evil person, has not an ounce of good in her, like deceitfulness in her heart, just awful. So he actually just had this interaction where he defeated a situation with her. I'm just trying to make it real short.
He basically proved, okay, so people were worshiping, this was in Jerusalem, yes? Or was it was in Israel, I believe. I would have to relook at it. I'm gonna screw that up. But anyway, basically there were people that were worshiping false gods, and Elijah was basically saying, no.
These aren't real.
Hey, let's put our gods to the test. And basically Elijah was like, yeah, because God came through and did exactly what he asked. He answered Elijah's prayer, showed people that there's a power of God. So there's like 400 and some odd prophets that were all worshiping these false gods, who got slaughtered because they were made out to be, they were false prophets. So
he just had this huge victory moment. And then now Jezebel is basically threatening. He just saw God come through for him. Celebratory moment. God's faithful. And now Jezebel is after him, after his life. She's like, not today. So here, this is where we enter verse 4. So it says, but he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree. And he asked that he might die, saying, it is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers. And he laid down and he slept under the broom tree. And behold, an angel touched him and said, arise and eat. And he looked and behold, there was at his head a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. And he ate and drank, and he laid down again. And the angel of the Lord came again a second time and touched him and said, arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you. And he ate and arose and drank and went in strength of that food for 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God.
Okay. So
what patterns do we notice?
So I love that because, first of all, can hardcore relate to Elijah, because I think that everyone gets to the point where they're just so exhausted with life throwing crap at you. And I mean, this guy was just like on the run. He had to just leave everything he knew behind. He was terrified. And he's just like, hey, I've had enough. Can take me home if you want. God, go ahead and kill me or do whatever it is that you need to do, but I don't want to be here anymore. But instead, you know, he's under this tree, and there had been an angel watching him. And we don't know for how long, but at one point he like passes out, and the angel wakes him up and he tells him like, hey, here's food and water. You're going to need it for the long journey ahead. So he does as he's told, goes back to sleep, and then he gets woken up again and to eat more food and drink more water. He's in the middle of nowhere, and somehow like a bird brings him meat and there's bread and water. So, and then he's able to sleep some more, and then he continues on to, I can't remember the name of the mountain, but he has an encounter with God there. And so important things to note about that point in the story that I was looking at was like, number one, like my favorite verse is Deuteronomy 31:8, which is, do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. And that is one of my favorite verses, because any time I'm having a rough go, I just have to remember that verse, because he's already been there. He's already been ahead of me. He's been behind me. He's beside me.
He's already been in the situation you're in.
He knows.
He's already been there.
And he says, I won't fail you. And a lot of times you see the word forsaken, which means turning your back on somebody or turning your heart away from them. He says, I'm not going to do that. I've been everywhere that you've gone and where you're going and where you're at right now. And I'm not going to leave you, and I'll be here with you the whole time. So fast forward to Kings, and you see that God's promise comes through he promised Aaron that, I believe, first, or was it Joshua? Yep. Aaron, Aaron, I think.
Aaron.
And, tells him he doesn't need to be afraid. And this promise comes to pass for Elijah and many others in the Bible. And it's still, a promise that holds true for his people today. And then so also Elijah has an angel that he didn't even know was there. There was something I read, a devotional, or I saw some video or something where somebody was talking about the significance of that, where they were like, Elijah wasn't even like aware. He was running for his life, and he was so terrified. All he wanted to do was die.
Literally die. And he was like begging God to take his life.
Yeah, he didn't think that anybody was going to come for him. Nobody was going to come to help him. That was it. This was the end of the road. But an angel had been with him the whole time. It was like an angel had been watching him as he like sets up under this tree or whatever, which was cool and interesting. But the angel also offers, encouragement. He encourages him to rest and eat and to prepare himself for the long journey ahead. So like when we feel like we just can't do it anymore, God sends exactly what we need to keep going. But while we're in that space between giving up and carrying on, there's rest involved. And so conserving energy to carry out what God has planned for us is really important.
Yeah.
And he rests. So Elijah rests. And while he rests, he's encouraged in two ways. One, he's been provided for in the way of food, but also by this angel who tells him he needs to take care of himself to keep going. And so say all that to say, rest is key to carrying out like whatever God calls us to do. It doesn't have to just mean physical sleep. So it involves, mentally, emotionally, spiritually preparing yourself for what's to come.
Yeah.
So if we aren't properly rested, we're not going to be equipped for what comes next. And I think that that's where a lot of us can tend to find ourselves in situations whenever we feel stuck. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I think I'm thinking of myself personally, but just like if I'm going through a rough time, or I'm in a wilderness season right now, and it's kind of like, okay, well, what am I doing to properly rest myself? What am I doing to properly prepare myself for the next season? Because what he has for me, like there's a
reason for it.
Always puts you in a wilderness season if there's like something
coming
big, and it's usually big.
Yeah.
It's like something big's coming. And so,
well, and I think
we can ready for it.
We can mirror rest. So I think the biggest aspect, right, as believers is we look to Jesus to see how we live our life. Like my goal at the end of my life is that I want to look more like Jesus. Like I want my life to be said that she loved Jesus. She lived like Jesus. Like I want him to get the glory for my life. So this aspect of, if I want to see what life looks like, Jesus actually rested too. But I think that, like you were just saying, that it makes me think of this verse in Matthew 11, and it's verses 18 through 30, but I love it in the Message version. And I love how the Message like translates it. I guess it's not like a translation, but an interpretation. And it says this, and are you tired and worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. This is Jesus talking, by the way. So this is what he's saying to people who want to follow him. So whether you're going through life, you ready? You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So it's like he's saying this to people who, it's like you're trying everything. You're in this hustle culture. You're trying to make it all work for you. Like whether that be through acts of religion, whether that be through trying to make it all happen, to fill in the blank, you try to make it happen yourself. So this is 28 through 30. It says, are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay any heavy or ill-fitting thing on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. And I just think, man, that's how I want to live my life. Like, and I just love the line of unforced rhythms of grace.
That's good.
And I just think of like what rhythm is, and it's that constant, or it's like a constant sound, right? For rhythm that like you can catch to. So like this idea of God's grace and how to rest in him is this constant flowing of who he is. And we aren't going to know that until we know him.
Yeah, that's so good. What I liked was the immediate, are you burned out on religion? Yeah. And I love that, because I think even Christians can do that, where it's like they've got their head down, and a lot of times it's so easy to get wrapped up in works.
Oh, I'm like throwing both hands up, like
focusing on being task oriented. How can I please God? How can I do X, Y, Z to make sure that God thinks that, that he still loves me and that I'm still trying to be like him and all of this stuff. And it's like, he does not care about that.
Yeah.
He cares about it, but he wants it to be a heart position that is turned towards him, that your love for him is so great that you are inspired and spurred on to do works, not that you should be focused on tasks to get approval or
if I don't do this right, God's
to secure your place in heaven or something.
If I miss it, or if I didn't handle a situation the way God wanted me to, and I was trying, and that trying and falling short, then he's upset, he's not pleased, he's frustrated at like that's religion.
And then you get Christians that get so focused on that, and then they wind up burning out, or they get way past burnout and they're still somehow serving and doing everything. And then you've got jaded Christians at the helm of, churches. And that just opens a door for church hurt, for all kinds of stuff to happen. So it's super important.
When I think of Jesus is even saying, like, I'll show you what real rest looks like. And then how did Jesus rest? Like, he would take time and go get away with the Father. Like, if you look throughout scripture, Jesus would, like, even though he was with his best friends, right? He was with his disciples throughout scripture. He would like go and break away to get time with his Father. And like, I think that's something that's just vital to what we have to do if we want to live in real rest. And then, okay, this was something else I thought of when you were just mentioning earlier, like when you're in wilderness seasons, and usually it's like wilderness happens before something big. Like, once again, looking at Jesus and his life and how it's modeled, that's literally what happened to Jesus. Like, he got baptized and he hears a voice of God say, "This is my beloved son who I'm well pleased," before he ever did anything, which is also another way to like look and realize like how much God loves you. Like, before you ever do anything, like he told Jesus that this is my son and I'm so pleased by you, before he ever turned water into wine, before he ever healed the sick. Like, he heard that before. But then right after that, it says, like the Holy Spirit led him into the wilderness right after like he was baptized. And then at the end of the wilderness, it says that angels came and ministered to him. And then from that point on, he began his ministry. So it's just this idea of like, yeah, wilderness serves its purpose, but we have to learn to rest. And if it happened to Jesus, it's going to happen to us. Mm-hmm. And how do we get through that is definitely like by watching what Jesus did and learning that real rest.
Yeah. I think something else we should touch on too is, the Sabbath.
Yeah. Once again, modeling after Jesus. God.
Yeah. Well, you can certainly answer it, because I would just like to ask you, what would you say an ideal Sabbath looks like? And are there any particular practices that should take place? I mean, so today our Sabbath looks so different than what it used to be. And there's also different, like, Jewish people celebrate that. Well, not celebrate. I mean, they take their Sabbath on Saturdays. Yes. Yeah. And, there's other,
like denominations. Christianity.
Yeah. There's different denominations of Christianity that do that as well.
So I guess, like, to me, real Sabbath looks like undistracted. So, like, I think I saw one of the pastor who I follow, they talk about, like, they have like Sabbath Saturday, because of course their Sunday is a work day. Like, Sunday's a work day for them. But where they, like, no one in their house, like, they put their phones away all day. Like, it's a day for family. It's a day for, like, pouring into the things that are most important. So, like, in the triad of life, in the pyramid of life, you
got close.
It's 3 sides. Guys, I promise I say dumb things, but I'm smart. It doesn't come out smart all the time. So, like,
I think if you have to say that.
Okay, so in the triad of life,
I'm not saying you're not smart, but I don't find it wise to just assure people by saying, I promise I'm smart.
Picture a pyramid, my friends. And on the bottom is literally, it's the base. It's the foundation of your life. So a Sabbath should be like, this is Jesus. This is what I'm focusing on this day. And then what else is important? Like your family. And so setting time to, like, put that aside. If you don't have a family, okay, what are gifts? What are hobbies God's given you? What are things that you enjoy? So I just really picture it more as a time to focus on Jesus, get rid of distractions or things that will clutter your mind, things that pull from you, things that drain your energy, and pour into the things that you love so you can be refilled. But I think the biggest thing is just that, like, that undistracted, unfiltered, unplugged maybe is a better word to use, like an unplugged day where you don't have times to be, you don't have schedules to keep, but you're focusing and pouring into the things that you value most.
That's good.
Which, I mean, your relationship with Christ should be in there.
That's good. Well, that was the last thing that I really just
wanted
to cover, I think.
I was going to try to list 3 things to, like, make my point, but I realized I just only listed 2.
Oh, well, what's your third?
Well, I didn't have one.
Oh, she don't have one.
So I shouldn't have said triad. Your box. Just kidding. Okay, anyways.
But we promise she's smart.
But, guys, I am.
That education. What, she went to Bible school. She got a degree or 2. Major and a minor. All right. Anyway, okay, I'll stop digging.
Thank you. Put the shovel down, Wilson. Put the shovel down. All right. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, that's all we got, guys.
We look to Jesus to learn how to rest. There's so much, like, go through scripture. We'd be happy to help comment and point you to different scripture where he talks about how to do that. And yeah, we love y'all. We love y'all. So 1 second here. I was clicking on our closing, and the section I clicked on didn't have it.
Okay.
But be sure to check out our website at www.boldco.studio, where you can learn more about us or stream episodes if you don't have a preferred platform you use already. You can email us with thoughts, comments, and questions. If there's a topic you'd like for us to discuss, or you can, anything like that, you can email us at info@boldco.studio. Be sure to like and rate us on whatever streaming platform you found us on. And finally, give us a follow on Twitter at Boldco Women.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh, at Bold Women Co. We are on Instagram at boldwomen.podcast. Come hang out with us. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.